Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of Your Bish Therapist podcast. I am your host, your Bish Therapist, and I am still a little sicky, as you can hear. So I wanted to surprise everyone and do a shorter podcast today because I missed last week because I've had the plague. And I thought I was going to have to miss this week too, but I decided to just try to do a little something for you all. So it won't be my regular long podcast, but I do have some good updates and I do want to talk about a couple of things. So the first exciting update that I have is that I think I am starting to feel better. The long and the short of what happened is that I got food poisoning the weekend of my birthday on 4/6. I have literally been sick since 4/6. I got food poisoning, which I talked about in my last podcast. And then as I was recovering from food poisoning, my husband got sick with some sort of upper respiratory thing, which he rarely does because he's a very healthy person, which thank goodness one of us is. And he was so kind to give that plague to me. And so I wasn't recovered from the food poisoning. And then I caught this. And it's funny because the last podcast episode that I did, I joked about like feeling that I was getting the plague because I could just tell I know my body well enough that I knew it was coming. But after I released my last bite-sized bish that night, it was just all over for me. And so what happened was, unfortunately, from that point is that I am so good at tolerating illness, which, chronic illness folks, I know a lot of chronic illness folks listen to this podcast. I think probably people will relate with that, but it was just too good at tolerating it. And it just went a little bit too far. And I ended up getting bronchitis and an upper respiratory infection. And when I went to urgent care, I talked about, getting a Z-Pack because that usually works. And the doctor was like, "Oh, honey, we're well past a Z-Pack." And I was like, "Oh, no. Oh, no." So I am on heavy duty antibiotics, which are destroying my guts. I was on steroids. I'm finished with that now. But as soon as I finished the steroids, my cough came back and I'm feeling worse today. And so the long and the short of it is that I will be fine. I always want to keep you updated because when I'm quiet and when I don't release podcasts, you all know me well enough to know that something is not right. Unfortunately, I can't just get sick like a regular person. This is where chronic cancer really comes to bite me in the butt with regular stuff, right? So my husband was sick. He didn't need to go to the doctor. He didn't need medications. He's better. And I'm going to be dealing with this probably for months, if I'm being honest. My fatigue has been bad. I'm still coughing. I'm still congested. And also, here's the beautiful thing is spring has sprung. But for me right now with all my respiratory stuff, it's hard to know what's allergies as I wheeze into the microphone. What's allergies and what is, just this insane illness. So I'm happy to be here speaking with you all. And let's hope by, this week, I will be doing an episode with Mandy. Mandy and I were supposed to do an episode last week. And then I just, said I was too sick. I couldn't do it. So we rescheduled. So you can look forward to that. There'll be an M&M hour. And we're going to have a lot to talk about. So one thing I wanted to say is that yesterday on my Patreon, we did our first Bish Zoom. And I just wanted to announce that because I'm going to be doing one Zoom a month. And so if anyone wants to participate in that, if you're a subscriber anywhere, if you subscribe on Spreaker Supporters Club, if you're a subscriber on my Instagram, if you're a subscriber on Patreon, if you subscribe to me anywhere, email me at yourbishtherapist@gmail.com, or send me a DM or, just contact me and you will get invited to the next Zoom. It was so fun. Thank you to those of you who attended. We had such a good time. It was such a good kiki. It was nice to see, everyone's faces and put screen names to a real face and a voice and all of that. And so, what I wanted to tell you is that on the Zoom, we had talked about some ideas, and I just wanted to share that with you all. Number one, I'm going to be covering Love Hotel, because I think that the one thing we talked about in the Zoom is that I'm not sure if I'm aging out of Housewives or if it's just gotten so much more toxic. I can't tell. I don't know. But I feel like between, like The Valley and Real Housewives of Atlanta and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I didn't even cover, by the way, Reunion Part 3 because it was so toxic and boring to me. It was just like the same thing over and over, except like we finally see Garcelle just quit. Um, I don't know. I just feel like I'm sick of Housewives. I feel like they've been on for so long, and it's like there's this grotesque drama now that it seems less fun and just more icky. So what do you all think? I mean, am I just getting old? Are we all getting old? I don't know. I started watching these shows in my 20s. And so I'm just kind of processing that. And so we talked about that on the Zoom for a little bit. But Love Hotel I will cover because I think it's going to be a really fun mix of some things I can actually really speak to. So for example, Love Hotel aired last night. It is a dating show with Luann de Lesseps, Gizelle Bryant, Ashley Darby, and Shannon Storms Bedore. And out of those four women, the person who stands out like a sore thumb is Shannon, because you can just tell like the other ladies have game. Like Giselle's game is guarded game, but she still has game. Shannon, you can tell, is just so like, she got married to David and then she found, Johnny J, and it just like didn't have a lot of experience, and you can tell she's just really insecure. But by the way, Shannon has never looked better. I don't know what's happened. I don't know what her routines are or what's going on, but she looks fabulous. I mean, all the ladies look absolutely gorgeous. I'm a straight woman. I would love to sign up for Love Hotel because those are four hot mamas. And it just was a really fun episode. But the sad thing from the episode that I did want to note is that Shannon said that she's never been in love. So she was married to David, had kids. They were married for a long time. And then she insisted that she and Johnny J were really happy. And she reveals that she's never been in love. And I just thought, my goodness, that is so sad, isn't it? Imagine being at that point in your life, where you have two kids and, serious relationships and you've never been in love. So for me, I think one of the most interesting parts of Love Hotel will be watching Shannon find her like adult self, find what really makes her happy, find what really makes her tick. We did start to already see with her some, jealousy in terms of like one of the guys, like talked to her and then went and talked to Gizelle. I think that it's going to be interesting watching Shannon's process in terms of like jealousy and insecurity and things like that. And, the reason why I'm interested in watching that is I hope to watch it evolve because Shannon is so fabulous. And I just think that she needs to understand how fabulous she is and grow some, self-esteem and self-worth on her own, independent of men. And also it's like you're on a show with these like beautiful ladies, right? So there's going to be competition. And so it's going to be really interesting to watch how she proceeds. But Gizelle Bryant and Portia Williams were on Watch What Happens Live, and they were talking about, they played a little game and how, Luann kind of kissed the most guys, and they just like spilled a little tea. But the one thing that Gizelle also spilled that I thought was so fascinating is that she claims there are receipts proving that Stacey paid TJ to be on the season, last season of Real Housewives of Potomac, and that he hasn't gone public about it because he's still waiting to get his check. And I thought, oh my gosh. So if Stacy comes back, and then of course Gizelle made a joke about how she's not rising, like Stacy's not rising. Because remember at the reunion, she was like, "And still I rise," and everyone's like, "No, not and still I rise, not my Angelou, no." So it sounds like it's going to be Gizelle versus Stacy on the new season of Potomac. And also Gizelle gave an update that Karen, I guess, is doing really well in jail. And I'm like, great. That everyone loves her there and she's really safe. And here's the thing. Of course, we want Karen to be safe. We never want anyone's safety to be in question, but Karen needs to learn some really hard lessons, and being, having like a little stan club in the jail isn't going to help her delusion and her denial. So I'm really kind of interested to see how this is going to play out for Karen once she gets out of prison. But so I will continue to cover Love Hotel. That was the number one piece of information. Number two is that we talked about on the Zoom I'm going to cover Natalia Grace because there are new episodes. So there was season 1, 2, gosh, now I can't remember. There was definitely season 1 where the story is she meets the Barnetts and, that whole disaster. And then there's a new season. It's on Hulu and on HBO Max, where it's, the story left off where Natalia was with the man's family and then that blew up. And it was such a drama. And I watched every single episode. And so I'm going to talk about Natalia Grace. Also, it was requested that I talk about Ruby Frankie. And I initially had told the Zoom folks that, due to my own history with things, I just wondered if it would be too triggering. But at the same time, I do love reading terrible people for filth clinically. I do love holding people super accountable and, being able to clinically sort of, let people know what's up. And so I think Ruby Frankie is about to get the YBT treatment, and that will be interesting. Bear with me on that. The Natalia Grace stuff I could talk about right now because I've already watched it. But the Ruby Frankie stuff I have to watch. So that'll be a TBD. And then the fourth one was the Karen Reed trial. The trial of the woman who the Boston police officer died mysteriously in the snow. And it was like, was it, all of this police corruption at the house that he was at? Were they hiding something? Did she hit him with her car? It's a really interesting scenario. I'm not quite sure how I would cover it. And there's more to come because her second trial is coming up. And so that might be something that I cover. So I just kind of wanted to share that with you all. That's what I was thinking. And I hope, you can join the next Zoom. So reach out to me in any way, shape, or form if you would like to do that. And of course, please go over to www.patreon.com/yourbishtherapist to join our fun community where we have kikis, we have group chats. It's an amazing time. And thank you to all of you who support me over there and everywhere. Anyone who supports me, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for appreciating. Thank you for all that you do, my boos. Okay, so next I want to talk a little bit about the Valley. In terms of Valley and Real Housewives of Atlanta being a little toxic. So I was covering Real Housewives of Atlanta, and then no one seemed to care about it when I would post. And it's like, well, I'm not going to watch something and do all that work if, no one cares. Like, it's enjoyable to me, but it still is work if I'm being honest. So I did a poll and it was like 50% of people just did not care about Atlanta. And I'm like, what is going on here? And so the feedback that I've gotten is that it's just too toxic. The stuff that happened with Kenya was totally wrong for what she did. Kenya, I believe, blew up her life out of spite. She possibly distributed child pornography because, Britt may have been underage when those things happened, allegedly. And so the whole thing was just so icky, and it really did put me off. And I think it put a lot of people off too. And then it's like, so Kenya's disgraced, right? So we're going to take Kenya out, and now we're going to add Phaedra, who was the lawyer who, years ago said that Candy and Todd wanted to drug and sexually assault Portia Williams. So it's like, I guess I don't understand what's happening here. I think that a lot, Phaedra went over to Married to Medicine, even though she wasn't married to medicine. She's not in medicine. She was, whatever. That's fine. And she couldn't manage any of those relationships either. She crashed and burned all of her relationships with her Married to Medicine co-stars, and then just came back here. And I guess I always wanted to like Phaedra, but I just don't respect, if you cannot have consistent relationships with anybody, I think the problem is you. So, I'm kind of torn on that. I mean, Phaedra is funny and she's really shady and she has great reads and all these things, but I don't trust her. And I just, I don't know. I'm not, after that whole thing, I just completely lost respect because, the thing of it is people try to talk to me about being unethical or this or that, but it's like, my God, I would never do that. I mean, what an accusation. That's so insane. And she let her friend Portia believe it all season. It was just like such a wild scenario. If for those who don't remember, you should go back and watch. It was a 4-part reunion. It was the most insane thing I've ever seen. And so I just think, I don't know where we go from here, but Real Housewives of Atlanta feels like that. Britt feels like a really dangerous person, if I'm being honest. I don't know why Britt is there. I don't enjoy watching Britt. I think Britt has some serious issues in terms of like, a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing. Like, I think she tries to act a certain way. And then, I don't know. I just really get bad vibes. And I know that's not clinical. I know that's not specific, but that's just how I feel. So I think that, speaking of toxic, the Valley, the one thing we talked about on the Zoom was that so many people are having a hard time watching the Valley because, if people have been in a domestic violence relationship before, it is going to be very triggering to watch Brittany and Jax and the whole thing. But what I'm wondering is that, so Jax, the last episode, we see him like reluctantly go to treatment. And I'm wondering if he's not going to be in the next couple of episodes or if they put off filming until he came back. I don't know, TBD. So when Mandy and I will talk about the newest episode of The Valley. And I think my commitment is to continue watching The Valley because here's my thought process, but let me know what you think. I believe that I can take something not great and make it good by squeezing some like good stuff out of it. So for example, with Jax, talking about addiction and recovery and like true recovery. And so the thing I want to say about Jax is that Jax got out of whatever treatment that he did, jumped right into his Mind of a Man tour. And he is not humbled. He is not sorry. He is not different. He is not changed. When, I've worked with people in recovery, there's a lot of people in recovery who listen to this podcast. And when people get into recovery, there is a change that happens. There is a humility. There is something that's hard to put your finger on, but you can feel it in your bones, that people take accountability. They have humility. They understand the ways that they participate in their own problems, right? Jax has none of that. None of it. And to me, the biggest red flag was when at the end of one of the last episodes of The Valley, he said, "Hi, my name is Jax Taylor, and I'm finally admitting I need help." Well, here's the problem. His name isn't Jax Taylor. It's Jason Couchy. So Jax Taylor is his like alter ego famous Bravo guy personality. And so for me, I need to know nothing more than that right now, that he feels that he is Jax. He is not connecting with Jason. He is not connecting with real stuff. And I think Jax just wants to pretend. He wants to cosplay health so that he can keep doing the same old shit and getting a paycheck for it. And so far, the network has been happy to allow that. I think Jax is one of the most unhealthy, toxic people on all of Bravo. In fact, I'll remind people that initially VPR, I didn't watch it because I felt allergic to Jax, like allergic to him just personally. He made me itchy. And there are certain personalities that I am very sensitive to. I'm going to try not to be too specific about that, but Jax has a very problematic personality, and I just don't see him changing. If he does, great. I'll be happy to let you know, but I just personally do not see that. And so for me, it's like, Jessie Lally is, woof, pretty toxic. Jax, Janet, oh my gosh. I tried to be reserve, opinion because, when you just watch people for a season, like it's hard to know, we don't know these people. Like you watch them for a snippet of time and, I don't know them. But Janet just really bugs me. I think that she is really devious and really manipulative. And, when she and Kristen were like having the talk, Kristen was like, pushing her about, I just feel like you're not sorry. And she's like, okay, well, then I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk away and I'm going to be like, I'm not sorry. And it's like, well, yeah, so you were being manipulative. Everyone can see that. So, it's just, I don't know what's going to be happening with the Valley, but for now I'm going to cover it. And I think people are appreciating that I'm covering it because then they don't have to watch it. It's like there are a whole group of people who don't watch the show. They just watch or like how I cover it, which is like such an honor. And I'm like, oh, that's so lovely. So I'm going to continue to do that for now. The one thing I will promise is this is what I told the Zoom folks yesterday is that if something ever becomes like unethical and it becomes not good for me or for us, I'll just, we'll talk about it. Because I think that my one thing here is that whatever I'm doing, I want to help people. I want to do it ethically. I want to do it responsibly. And I don't want to be covering shows that are irresponsible. But for now, status quo until hopefully it doesn't get any more toxic, but I have a feeling it will. And so that's it for me today. I've had to pause a little bit and cough my lungs out. And so I'm going to kind of end it here, but I'm at least glad that I was able to do a little bit of an episode for you all today. Please stay tuned. This week, Mandy and I will be doing an M&M hour. We will be covering, I don't know if we're going to cover Love Hotel or if we're just going to cover the Valley. TBD. Mandy and I will talk about that like 10 minutes before we record. But either way, we will bring an entertaining episode to you all. And I hope everyone is staying healthy and taking good care of yourself. I think the message that I'll end with today is that, whatever it is, just if you're, struggling with physical illness, mental illness, whatever it is, make sure you're really looking at that self-care. Sometimes self-care isn't fun. Sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes it's cumbersome. Sometimes it's frustrating. But, I think the best thing that we can do is just take care of ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And so it's just a beautiful reminder to do whatever you need to do today to take care of yourself in all those very important ways. Because we need you. We need you here. So that'll be it for me today. Thank you so much for listening. Please go to Patreon. Please go to my social medias. Check out Your Bish Therapist. Please follow the podcast. Please give a 5-star review. Any way you can help. It really does help. I really appreciate you all so much. So for today, sending love to you and yours, and ta-ta for now. Disclaimer. Posts are not intended to diagnose, treat, or provide medical advice. Your Bish Therapist is for entertainment and informational purposes only. The podcast, my opinions, and posts are my own and not associated with past or present employers, any organizations, Bravo TV, Great Heart Productions, or any other television network. The information in YBT Podcast and on its social media is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat. Please do not act or refrain from acting based on anything you read, see, hear on YBT Podcast or associated social media. Communicating with YBT via email and or social media does not form a therapeutic alliance. Melissa, operator of YBT, is unable to provide any therapeutic advice, treatment, or feedback.